You found us through fly fishing. You'll stay for our passion and the community. Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Podcast.
Yeah, but he doesn't get it. How come fly fishermen don't get it?
You only haul with the short power snap.
Look for where people walk and the insides of bends and hunt those.
The roof blew off and the interior walls got sucked out. And the trees are just coming up. And I mean, he's clearly not going to clear the trees.
It is not a fly fishing story. It's a story about me trying to understand my brother through fly fishing.
Welcome to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show, where you discover tips, tricks, and tools from the leading names in fly fishing today.
Before we get started, quick word from our sponsor, Smitty's Fly Box, delivering monthly flies, fly materials, and accessories each month with their Smitty's subscription fly box. Smitty's has been producing high-quality flies and materials for over 30 years, so now it's time to take the guesswork out of fly time materials and patterns. You can support this podcast right now and get a great selection of flies and fly time materials right now at Smitty's Fly Box. That's Smitty's, S-M-I-T-T-Y-S, Smitty'sFlybox.com. We've been waiting for you. Follow our guests, follow us on Instagram, and share this episode and the love if you enjoy this podcast. And we are live in 3, 2, 1. How you doing, Poppy?
I'm good.
Good. Thanks for making some time today to put this together. We've heard a lot about you over the years, and I'm glad we're finally making some time. And I'm finally the schedule's aligned to get you on. We're going to talk. We're going to talk Spay, Steelhead, the Clearwater, the shop. You guys have a cool event coming up here at the end of the month. But before we jump into all that, take us back to, I want to start on fly fishing. What's your first memory of fly fishing?
Well, I had a fly rod when I was 7. I didn't always use the fly on it, but probably when I was about 10 or 12.
Where'd you grow up?
I was in Southern California at that point, and then we went to Salt Lake.
Okay. And how did you get over to, how did you make yourself over to like the area where you are now?
Well, I met a girl in Southern California in 1970, and she was from Orofino, which is 6 miles from where I am right now.
Oh, gotcha. There you go. All right. So that makes sense. And so the Red Shed Fly Shop, when did you open up the shop?
2002.
2002. Gotcha. And what was that like? Why start a fly shop in 2002? What led up to that?
Well, I was in the trucking business, and my wife was my dispatcher. She wanted me to get off the road, and I didn't want to. And I was down at Lewiston waiting to get a load parked, and another truck ran into me and tore the front off my truck. So I had to do something, and I had a little hay barn, and we cleaned it out and opened a fly shop that sold 2-hand rods and steelhead flies.
Wow. So you got smashed by another semi-truck, and because of that, you basically started the fly shop, decided that you wanted to go into another line of work.
Well, she wanted me to get off the road, and after that guy hit me, she was like, this is a good time for you to get off the road. So I had to do something else, and we opened the fly shop.
Wow. And so 2002, so you've been over 20 years now doing at the shop. Maybe describe the shop for somebody who hasn't been there. How would you describe the Red Shed?
It's a little red barn about 15 by 20, and it looks like nothing. It was just a little hay barn, a little tiny hay barn. Just a little wooden, it's just a little shed, basically. It was 10 by 15 when we started, and we added 10 feet. I guess it's 50, that's 25 by 15.
Gotcha.
Pretty small.
Yeah, but it's worked for you. If you walk into that shop, what would we see today? Would we see a bunch of fly materials, rods? What's it look like?
Yeah, there's every wall is covered with material. And we have the rods on the ceiling. We have two-handed rods in 2 rooms, and single-handed rods in the other little room.
Yep. What was your when you were the Spay? Like, Spay is big, obviously, for you, for a lot of people. What was that like for you? The transition. When did you get into Spay casting and fishing?
1996. I started messing around with two-handers.
Yep. And why 96? What happened then? Did you know somebody? Where did you first see the two-hander?
No, I was on the internet. There was some kind of a forum back in Michigan or someplace called the Steelhead site, and some of those guys were talking about it. And Rob Estlin had a website back there in Wisconsin, I think, and I came across that. And then Dana Stern had International Spay Casting, which morphed into Spay Pages.
Yep. So that's where it started. 96, you get your Spay rod. 2002, you open the shop. How has it been? What's it been like running a shop for over 20 years, a fly shop?
It's been up and down. It was something that I never had any dreams of being in the fly shop business. I didn't know anything about being in the fly shop business. It was just something that I did, and it just happened to work. The timing was good.
Yeah. What do you love most about being in the fly shop business?
I like interacting with the customers, and fishing's I've fished my whole life, so it's something that I like to do. I never thought of myself as being in the retail business. It just happened, and it just happened to work out pretty good.
Nice. And for Steelhead, there's been some challenges as of late for Steelhead runs and things, but when was, your first Steelhead? Did you get into Steelhead right when you got into Spay, or were you into Steelhead before that?
No, I saw my first Steelhead caught in the American River when I was about 12, and I was instantly in love with the silver fish about 2 feet long. And then after I met my wife, we came to Idaho in August of 1971, and a family friend took me steelhead fishing in what we call a stink hole down by Lewiston, and I hooked one on a hot shot.
Wow.
The first fish fooled me. I was using a trout rod, and it hit and made one run, and that was the end of that, and I was instantly hooked on steelhead fishing.
Wow. Amazing. So the American River, which is that whole area, right? That's where steelhead fishing first came, I think, to the U.S. That's where people first got into it. So and is that where, you said you grew up in the Southern California, but you were up just fishing up in Northern California?
Yes, we'd go visit my grandparents in Auburn in the summer, and we fished in the American River above Folsom Reservoir.
Gotcha. Amazing. Okay, so that's your first steelhead, and then you get over, and then when you get to the Clearwater, do you remember your first Clearwater steelhead?
Yeah, it was in the stink hole in August of 71 on a little hot shot, and I lost that fish, and then her parents lived in Orofino for a time, and then they moved to Lewiston, so we would be up here at least once or twice a year, and then in 85, we moved to Lewiston. I lived about a block away from where I hooked my first steelhead, so I had a chance to go fish more for them.
Wow, amazing. So you're right in this amazing part for steelhead fishing, in that part of the world. We mentioned before, but numbers are down a bit. Are you still seeing? Are people still out there fishing? Is it still open? What's that look like?
Yeah, the season opened on July the 1st for catch and release, and the numbers are actually looking better than what we first thought. It might be a little bit better run. It's not going to be, gangbusters, but I'm a little more optimistic than I was a month ago.
Okay. Yeah, and I noticed you had a little photo on your Facebook page. I think it was from 2021, and it showed like the run since 2011. I think it started out at 360 over Bonneville, 360,000 fish, and it dropped down to like in 2021, it was down to about, 60,000? It dropped a lot. I mean, how are we now? Have the runs still in that range, or are they coming up in a bit?
I think they've come up a little bit, but I never look at the numbers anymore. I quit. It's going to be whatever it is, so there's no sense in looking at the numbers. And
Yep, I agree. It is what it is, and part of it is the Spay, right? People love just fishing and learning the Spay, so that's kind of one of the cool things. Even if you maybe don't get a shot at a fish, you're still working on the Spay game. Do you actually instruct? Are you a teacher? Are you a guide of the Spay and steelhead, or do you just stay in the shop most of the time?
No, most of the time now I work on cane rods, but my cane rod shop's at the house and is behind the fly shop about, 50 yards. So I watch the shop, and then if my son-in-law's there part of the time, then I work on rods. Don't fish as much as I used to.
Sure. What's the cane rod that you're working on? Are you building these from scratch, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I build them from scratch, mostly single-handers. I've made some trout spays, and I have plans to make some two-handers, but I haven't actually made a steelhead two-hander yet, just some trout spays.
Gotcha. Okay. When you look at the Clearwater, how would you fish it with the Spay rod? What's your setup look like? Talk about your rod, your line, and how you would fish it, because there's kind of different ways. Are guys doing a lot of different things like long belly, short belly stuff out there?
A lot of the guys are using longer lines. We have guys here fishing 15, 16 footers, but you don't need that. If you have a 13-foot 7 weight and a scanty head, you're set up pretty good for our fishing until after Thanksgiving anyway.
Gotcha. So most people are using scanty. There's not a lot of people using like Skagit line. You don't need a sinking line at all out there?
Most Clearwater diehards seem to fish that floating line until the water's about 36 degrees or 38 degrees. If they're really into floating lines, they'll keep fishing it even after the water starts getting pretty cold. But if you like Skagit head, you can fish that here too. But I tell people, put a floating tip on it and just do your thing.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you can still fish it with the floating. And so when does the season? Talk about the season on the Clearwater. When does it start and when does it end?
Catch and release opens on July the 1st. Usually there's some fish around. It's pretty skinny until more into August, and then it gets going. Usually about the first week of September, you can find a fish close to my shop down here. And the season actually goes clean into the next year. I think it'll end on April the 30th, and the fish are moving upstream.
Oh, wow. So you can fish. So people are fishing out there all the way through the winter and into the next spring?
Yeah.
That's amazing. So it's a long season. So it's almost a year-round season. They just close it for the spawning season.
It's pretty long. Yeah, we're pretty lucky to have such a long season. If you like to winter fish, you can do that to your heart's content.
Yeah. Have you done a lot of winter fishing, or do you stick with the warmer weather?
When I was younger, I fished a lot more in the winter. I don't fish in the winter very much anymore.
Yeah. So the winter is the winter time. If you're fishing winter, spring, you're using like sinking lines, getting it down, or could you still get them on the surface in the winter?
There's a few people that'll fish that floating line the whole time, or they'll put a sinking poly leader on. Scanty head with the sinking poly leaders, and fish the same kind of flies they fish all fall.
Yeah. And what is the fly? What if I came in today and I wanted to put on a fly, what would you tell me to put on for a type of fly?
If the sun's out, a green butt skunk, size 6.
Not a regular skunk, just a green butt.
A green butt skunk.
Yeah, perfect. Size 6?
Well, yeah, size 6. Some guys, the Clearwater's pretty good with size 8. Some guys like the size 8, but size 6 works really good.
Okay, and is this a pretty sparsely tied fly, or does it have is it big and kind of flashy?
No, sparse is good.
Yeah, sparse is good. Perfect. Right on. So, and what is over the years, you've probably seen some different sizes of fish, and they're small and large. What is the largest fish you've ever seen or heard of on the Clearwater?
I've seen a few over 40 inches. That's pretty rare, but I'd say 42 inches. 42,
so you're talking well over 20 pounds.
Yeah, I think so. That is pretty rare, though. Most of them are about, the A fish are smaller, but the B fish, I'd say 10 or 12 pounds.
Yeah, 10 or 12 pounds. That's right. Yeah, and those start coming in when? Is that more of a like October, November when those start coming in?
Yeah, the B runs are later. That was the North Fork fish.
Yeah, it's because the Clearwater. Now, describe that. Where does the Clearwater flow into? What river? Describe that a little bit, or how far, like where you're at, where the shop is right now, the nearest town, and then where does the Clearwater flow into?
Well, the Clearwater is formed by the Loxon, the Selway, about 75 miles from where I'm at, and then it flows into the Snake at Lewiston. I'm about 36 miles from the confluence of the Snake.
Okay, cool. So if we were coming up there, maybe for this event coming up here that you have going, or just fishing, and we wanted to stop by the shop, could we stop by? And then is there plenty of camping and fishing and stuff like near the shop, or where would you recommend if somebody wants to stay there for a few days? Where should they be heading?
Well, there's 2 people camping my pasture, but there's places that you can just do your thing if you want. There's a BLM camp about mile marker 20. I'm about mile marker 35. There's another BLM camp at Orfino on the west edge of Orfino. There's a couple RV camps around here.
Perfect. Great. So this will be no problem. So if we come up here, and we might even visit you and maybe even stay in your lawn, it sounds like you let some people do that occasionally.
I have a few people that have been camping in my pasture just about every year for 15, 20 years.
Oh, wow. How big is your pasture? Is this like, are there animals or are there cows and things like that out there?
Not anymore, but it's not that big, actually. At one time it was a lot bigger, but that property's gone now. So next door there's a fire department over there.
Oh, okay.
It's big enough. I've had 10 or 12 guys camped out there.
Oh, wow. There you go. Okay. This is sweet. And talk about this. I'm not sure if you're fully involved or leading this, but in the past it's been called, the Red Shed Spay Clave. And I think now maybe there's a different name, but is this event, are you fully, this is coming up, right? At the end of September this year?
September 30th at the Lenore Rest area, which is about 6-7 miles downstream from where I'm at. We've had, I think this will be the 16th one. We were going to have one in the last one we had before COVID. They closed the season the day after the Spay Clave. And so then in 2021, my wife and I couldn't decide if we wanted to have it or not. The numbers weren't very good. And she passed away, so then it was just off the table for a while. But this year we've joined forces with Fly Project, U.S. House of Fly, and we're having it again on September 30th.
Nice. So if somebody wanted to get involved in that, do they have to register or do they just show up?
Just show up. Costs nothing. It's all free. We'll have some demo casters there. There'll be some tackle reps there. We have lunch, and it's just a big friendly gathering.
Yeah. What is it about the Spay, that gathering that, you know what I mean? People, I know there's going to be like Simon Gosworth's going to be there. There's going to be a lot of great, casters and anglers. But what is it that makes those events so cool? Because I think the Spay Clave, I'm not sure where the first one was, but it seems like they're really unique. Why are those, what do you enjoy about them? And why do you think they're so unique?
Well, you get to see the new tackle. You get to see different methods of casting or fishing. The first ones that I think Mark Bachman over in Oregon had the very first one. And Linda and I went to the first one, 2003 or 4. And so we decided to have our first one in 2005. And we had them all the way through until COVID. And then it just kind of disintegrated after COVID hit. And then she was gone. So, it was kind of cool to decide to have it again. I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, it is. It's it's really cool. I think there's a lot of people that are excited about this because, well, like you said, Bachman, he's no longer, he's around, but he closed up his shop and the Spay Clave, right, and all that thing. Do you see this as you've been doing this a while? Do you see folks around? What are your thoughts on longevity? Are you planning on keeping the Red Shed open till the very end, or how does that look for you?
When I'm gone, my son-in-law, Dale Wheeler gets it. He'll have to eat a few more tacos and get fatter so he looks like me.
That's right. Okay, so it'll still be going. And so if we're running up there today or, this month before we want to pick up a rod, I know you've had different rods over there over the years, but what's the recommended setup? You said like a 13-foot. Do you have a bunch of different brands in there, or like line setups? What would you recommend there?
I sell Miser Red Shed Specials. I sell Berkheimer on the high end, and I sell Echo for the lower price point. We have them all the way up to 16 feet.
16 feet. Did you ever do much of that long belly stuff, or have you always, what was your style of spay?
When I started with the junkyard spay, I think I was using 41 feet of double taper, SA double taper 10, and a piece of Maxim 30-pound brown for my running line. But once I actually got a real spay rod, I think 14 foot for me. Then I went to 15 foot, and now if I was using graphite again, it'd probably be a 14 footer. But I'm fishing with an 11-foot Bob Clay right now.
Oh, really? You have 11-foot spay?
11-foot Bob Clay, yeah.
Wow. What's that rod? Is that can you do as much damage with that one out there as you can with the 14-footer? Do you think you can almost cast it at a similar distance?
Yeah, I don't think you have to cast that far if you don't want to, but there's been lots of steelhead caught in the Clearwater with a 8.5 foot 7 weight and just a regular fly line. So with the two-hander, you can control more line, you can cast farther, but I don't know if you need one. They are fun.
Yeah. So do you remember, before you got into spay and I think it was 96 in that range, were you catching steelhead on the Clearwater with a single hand rod?
Yeah. Yeah, I used to fish with them with an 8.5 foot 7 weight yellow Fenwick fiberglass. And then I got a graphite rod. I don't remember. It was somebody's blank. I think it was a Fisher blank. I bought off of some forum. And then I didn't have any money to get a real spay rod, so I made my first one.
What was the first one you made? Was there a blank?
Well, it was that single hand yellow fiberglass was the top of it. And then for a butt section, I used a piece of Fenwick flipping stick that had the tip broke off. I cut it off and made it the butt section. Made the junkyard spay.
Wow. So do you still have all your old rods, that rod and all the old rods?
That rod's on the wall of the shop.
Oh, cool. Right on. Well, I'm going to check that out.
That's a reminder that not everybody can afford the $600 spay rod.
Yeah, or $1,000, right? Or $1,000 spay rod.
Yeah, it's gotten up there. When I started out, there was no the offshore tackle didn't exist. St. Croix made a $250 spay rod, but then I think the next cheapest one was like $600. So when Redington and TFO and Echo came along, that got a lot more people into it and kind of opened the market up.
Right. It did, and now it seems like everybody's got a spay rod out there. Do you see? It's kind of it's a easier way to get into it. Like if somebody's kind of getting into spay, what do you think is what's the good advice you give somebody if they're brand new to it? How do they help, or even maybe they've tried it and they kind of suck at it? What's your recommendation?
Well, I think if you would go to any fly shop in the Pacific Northwest that sold two-handers and you said, I want a steelhead rod, they're going to sell you a 13-foot 7 weight, and they're going to put a Skagit head on it, which is fine. And that'll work fine here, too. But a lot of my customers like 14, 15, and even 16-foot rods with longer bellies. So it kind of all works.
Yeah, it does. I guess you just need to find maybe a good instructor, good videos, right? I mean, I learned by watching videos. It sounds like you also have a lot of videos and DVDs. Do you still have those in the shop if somebody wanted to get some material, they're like books, DVDs?
We still have some. I think I still have Rio's down there. And then John and Amy Hazel had a couple really good ones. We still have those, but DVDs don't sell as good as they used to because there's so much on the internet now.
Bearvault is one way to assure your next backcountry trip stays memorable, epic, and safe. Bearvault builds a rugged polycarbonate locking canister that keeps bears and other wild animals away from your food. This in turn keeps your food safe, keeps the bears safe, and keeps you safe. I've got a classic story that I've told a few times about the bear taking my backpack while up in Alaska. I had my lunch and some snacks in there and just went up around the corner to fish for a bit. And when I got back, it was totally gone. If I would have had that Bearvault right at that moment, I would have been okay because my food would have been completely sealed. The bear would have had no idea and no reason to take my backpack. So a good reminder there. You might not realize it, but this type of thing happens all the time, even to experienced outdoorsmen. The great news for us is now we can experience the great stuff of a remote trip without ever having to worry about animals fiddling with our stuff. Sleep soundly knowing your vault has sealed the deal for you. Believe it or not, food storage is a key consideration while backcountry hiking, fishing, or camping. The Bearvault also has some great bonus features like the see-through sidewall so you can find your stuff really easy, and a large opening plus it doubles as a nice camp stool. This thing is legit. It definitely is this might be my favorite feature is the camp stool. You know, I love a good chair out there. Check in with the crew at Bearvault at wetflyswing.com/Bearvault. That's Bearvault, BEARVAULT. Okay, back to the show. Right on. Well, this is good. So basically, it sounds like it's pretty easy and there's good access, right? If you go to the Clearwater, you can pretty much, you don't need a boat to fish that river. You can drive the road and just hop in. I mean, what's your recommendation? If somebody wants to find a good run to fish, they're brand new to the area, how do they find a good run that holds fish?
I drive along the river and look where there's other people fishing and then be there earlier tomorrow.
Right.
We have about 70 miles of pretty good steelhead water, no matter which way if you're coming downstream or going upstream. There's lots of good runs. It's almost all accessible to walk and wade fishermen. You don't need a boat.
Wow, this is great. So no boat. And then are you fishing the runs? I'm just picturing I haven't fished it, but I'm just picturing these kind of nice shallower runs. Is it pretty easy wading and all that, or do you have to get deep and get in the water and, get out there?
Well, as far as wading, you need felt soles here and studs help and a wading staff if you're not very good, but you really don't have to wade that deep. There's lots of places you can fish. There's lots of places. It depends on the time of the year, but some places you don't even have to wade, but most guys are wading a little bit up to the knees at least.
Right. But you don't have to go very deep. And these fish, when the takes is this a kind of just typical downstream and across with the dry line and the take is on the swing or on the hang down?
Yeah, pretty much.
Pretty easy.
Wet fly swing.
That's right. What's your, if you had one time to pick to say, hey, I only have 1 week to go fish the Clearwater, when would that be?
The end of September is pretty good. September and October are my favorite times. It's pretty good dry line fishing all the way into Thanksgiving, and then we'll have some cool weather so people will start talking about sink temps, whether they fish one or not.
Yep. Gotcha. Are there any, as far, you got your shop, are there other shops in the area around there, other fly shops or other places other than yours?
North 40 in Lewiston.
Oh, how far is that away?
35 miles.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the North 40, that's right. Gotcha. North 40 in Lewiston. And yeah, you're kind of out there, but yeah, there are some other, Lewiston is a pretty decent sized town. So this is good. Well, I'm planning, I want to get this together so we can get some people out there to the Spay Clave. Do you think this event is going to be a pretty big one this year, or how do you judge the success of a Spay Clave?
I don't know how big it's going to be, but there's been a lot of positive talk about it so far. Everybody was pretty excited that we were going to have it again. Mrs. Red Shed always did all the food, and she'd make 1,000 cookies, and we're not going to have that, but people seem excited that we're doing it again.
Good. Okay. And tell me this, I'm curious about, because for me, I think of mentors and people that help me along the way. I always find that you could watch DVDs and teach yourself, but sometimes the mentors are, a big help. Have you had any people? It sounds like you taught yourself quite a bit, but were there any folks along the way that have helped you kind of dial in your spay game and steelhead fishing?
Well, Yeah, there's a lot of them. Tracy Allen. I met Tracy Allen and Dave Bloom and Rick Woolham in September of 2003, I think. And they were all spay casters that had been coming to the Clearwater for a long time. I didn't know them, but they would be here fishing at the same time that I would be here fishing. And then once I met them guys, I started meeting a lot more people that they knew, and it just kind of went from there.
Right. And now you've probably met most everybody. Do you find that a lot of people have come through that area over the years? I mean, the Clearwater seems like it's one of the most famous steelhead rivers in country, maybe the world, right? Do you find a lot of international people coming from around the world as well?
We have people that come from other countries. I've met quite a few people from South Africa, quite a few people from Scandinavia and the UK. I don't know. I think it's the best dryline steelhead river in the lower 48, although some Deschutes people might argue with me, but
That's right. That's right. Well, that's where I'm coming from. That's kind of my home water, and I fish that. So I always feel like if I know the Deschutes so well that I'd probably do okay on the Clearwater because it seems like it's a pretty similar. Have you fished the Deschutes River?
2 times. I went with Travis Johnson both times. My first Deschutes fish was about 11 pounds, but I caught one fish that trip and lost one, and the next time I went, I caught one fish and lost one.
There you go. So you're probably doing way better than most people. You actually, on your first trip, caught a steelhead on the Deschutes.
I had a good guide.
How did the Deschutes compare? Do you remember, how did that compare to the Clearwater?
I don't know. I like the Deschutes, but I like the Clearwater better. But, the Deschutes was different, a little bit different for me anyway. But, basically I just did what Travis told me, and it worked out pretty good.
Right. Yeah, it's a good idea. Follow the advice of your guide. And
I think he knows every steelhead in that river. Oh,
yeah. Yeah, he knows his stuff for sure. That's great. We joke about it because, we'll be fishing the Deschutes and you'll get one of those B-run fish. And that's your fish essentially, right? Those are your fish that are turned into the Deschutes, but they're heading on their way to the Clearwater for the most part. That B-run, that is a pretty, what is your experience there? So you mentioned a couple of big fish, but is that kind of the better run? I didn't even realize, so the A-run, so you guys have a smaller run fish that come in there earlier?
The A-run fish come earlier, and I personally like them the best because I think they're hotter, but, they come and then the B-run fish get here, but sometimes you catch a B-run fish early too. It's steelhead are just kind of like people. There's some patterns, but every once in a while they get broken.
Right. They definitely, they trick you sometimes for sure. I think you can't always figure them out. Nice. So tell us again on the Spay Clave. So you mentioned, Simon Gosworth, I think, is going to be there. Travis Johnson. Who else is going to be at that event?
Travis isn't coming this year that I know of, but we'll have Bruce Cook will be there with some long belly casting. Whitney Gould's coming. Al Burr is supposed to be there. Lee Davidson, Tracy Allen from Lewiston, Klaus Fremore. I think there's 7 demo casters.
That's a pretty solid lineup. I'd say that's some of the best, from around anywhere. That's awesome.
Well, when we decided to do it, I just, some people that we'd had in the past popped into my head, so that's who I called first.
Yeah, that's great. So tell on the fly shop. So what your daily you get in? Are you guys open 5 days a week, or how? What are your hours?
7 days a week, 10 to 5, 24/7 with a phone call.
So what is your daily? What time are you getting up, and when are you getting into the shop? Do you get there early?
I open it at 10, and then Dale comes at about 11:30 usually, and then we're both here until 3:30, and then he takes the packages to the post office, and I watch it until I close.
Okay. So are you sending out, these are orders, people calling up, ordering online, or how does that work?
Well, sometimes, a couple of days ago, I got a phone call at 4 o'clock in the morning from somebody on the East Coast.
Yeah, you get people from all around the country. Yeah, right.
All around the country. We ship all over the world. The Internet's an amazing tool.
It is. And Dale, now what's Dale? So Dale is your son-in-law? Is that the case?
Dale's my son-in-law. Yeah, he's married to my oldest daughter.
Okay. And how is he doing? How's his spay? How's his, has he got his spay game dialed in?
Yeah. He doesn't get to fish very much, but he likes steelhead fishing. He's been a great help to me.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to paint that picture because as we come in, I want to stop by the shop and just when people are coming in to know what to expect. So if they go, well, hopefully I'll be catching you. We'll be talking to you out there. But if not, Dale will be around there. And so the rod, again, I think long belly. What's the secret with long belly? Do you think once you learn, if you're learning the Skagit, you know the cast, can you cast a long belly line just as easy?
He has to be a better caster to cast a long belly line. The short line's easier to deal with, but when it gets cold, you don't really have to strip as much. You can get your line out there to a castable distance, and you can just leave it there.
That's it. Seems like the long belly is kind of for the Clearwater and these big rivers, it's the kind of the easier way to go because you're not stripping as much. Do you, on people on the water, is it kind of an even mix of long belly and shorter head stuff, or is it still, more Skagit stuff out there, or more, I guess, Scandi would be the, how does that compare? How does that look?
I think more people have fished the shorter lines, but we still have a lot of people that are fishing the 55-foot lines, and then I sell a lot of 63s and even some 73s and 83s. That's definitely more people are fishing short because I think it is easier. But I still have a pretty good business selling long bellies, so there's a lot of interest in that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, is there anything else we should know about, the shop or what you have going, or before somebody comes out there to make a trip, anything else you would want to, tell them or give them some insight?
No, you can just bring what you have and leader as long as the rod, 10 or 12-pound tippet for the general setup.
Pretty general, yeah. So 10 or 12, and that's what I've always used. We were up on the Skeena fishing here this month, and we were using 20-pound tippet, and it worked great, right? Why do you think the 10 to 12, and even sometimes, I've used 8-pound. What do you think the difference is between the tippets? Like, do you think, is there any advantage of using a heavier tippet or a lighter tippet? Why not use 8-pound versus 20-pound?
Well, up there you probably got bigger fish, but I actually think you could probably fish 20-pound here, and it wouldn't matter. I know one year I fished 15, and I think I caught 2 or 3 fish that year, which was about normal for me. I'm not too sure that it really does matter. Maybe if the water's real skinny, a lighter tippet, but I sell more 10-pound Ultra Green Maxima than anything else.
Yeah, that's right. So back, if you look at you've been there, the shop's been open for 20 years, and that takes us back to, 2002. So you've really seen you opened the shop when the runs were fairly, I think, on their way up, because I know the 2008s and 10s, there were some large runs. When you look at compare it, over the years, like you do a session, you get on your morning run. Now, is this also, I got 2 questions for you. One is how things have changed, but also, are you fishing mornings, evenings, or is it all day long? Can you fish anytime?
Most people that come here can fish all day. If you got the stamina, you can fish all day.
Okay. So you could hook a steelhead just as easy, bright sunlight on the water as you can early morning or late night.
Lots of them are caught under bright sunlight.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay. So that's the one question. Then the other question is, you get out there in the run, and what would be a great, back in the day, how many fish might you hook up into on a really great, session? Say you're out there fishing for a couple hours, and I know now it's maybe you get a fish and you're happy, but what was your best day? Do you remember that back in the day?
My best day was just one fish, but if you can come here and you can consistently get a grab every time you go, that's pretty good. I have heard of one guy that landed 7 in one day, and that's a creditable report.
Yeah, right. But I like that. One grab, one fish, one opportunity is, that's a pretty good day. Do you ever get out there a grab and you think it's a steelhead, and then you take, and then eventually you realize it's some other species?
Yeah. Well, you might catch a small. There's bass in the river. There's whitefish. You might catch a whitefish. Well, you might hook a fall chinook. Who knows?
Right. That's right. So you got some other species, but for the most part, if you get a good, nice grab pull, that's probably going to be a steelhead.
Yeah, I think so. The Clearwater's not a generous mistress, but I think it's probably about like the Deschutes. I don't know much about the Deschutes, but when I went there, if I got a fish and got maybe another grab or two, I was pretty happy. So I think it's.
Yeah, that's right. So if you're on a run and you're fishing it and you get like a little tap or a tip or something like that, or maybe even a grab, but the fish doesn't hook up, what's your next move? What do you do after that to try to get that fish back on?
Cast again in the same spot.
Yeah, just keep working it. Do you ever do the like change the fly or do any of that stuff?
Yeah, you can go to a comeback fly, a little smaller maybe. A Western Coachman's a pretty good comeback fly here.
Oh, okay. Western Coachman, yep. That's the kind of a...
Yeah, about a size 8.
Okay. Yeah, size 8. So that's the comeback fly. Good. And I think we're painting the picture pretty well on, just getting out there. It sounds like it's fairly easy to not only find a place to camp or that sort of thing. Is there a lot of pressure up there? Do you find like when you go out today or, on the water, are you going to see like all these runs, people fishing them, or is there plenty of room to find a spot to fish?
When the run's really good, there'll be a lot of people, but I've never found, even on the opening day of Catch and Keep, which will be very busy because the gear guys, the people that want to keep them, they're going to come out as soon as the Catch and Keep season starts. But I've never found when I couldn't find a run to fish.
When's that start? When's the Catch and Keep start?
It used to start on the 15th of October, but they changed it now, so I don't actually remember what the dates are, but it's later in the fall. Okay,
so you can still actually kill steelhead there.
You can fish from July the 1st all the way into April if you're so inclined.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And these fish that let's say you're in a run, you get a fish on, or maybe you hook a fish or two. If somebody's coming in behind you or later, an hour later, do they still have a good opportunity to catch a fish in that run, or do you feel like maybe the run's down a little bit and you want to let it rest?
Well, I feel like there's an opportunity there because I've seen a guy catch a fish and the guy behind him that might be his fishing buddy might catch a fish. I don't know that there's any real great pattern to it. Obviously, the less the runs are fished, maybe the better they are. But I've actually had a boat drift right over my line, and as soon as the boat, when I was ready to start cussing at him, I got a grab. So
right. Yeah, you never know. Yeah, it's interesting. We were, like I said, we did this trip up on the Skeena, and it's the main stem we were fishing, so these fish were always migrating through, right? So it didn't even matter because there'd be a fish there, and then he's not holding. But I think I'm guessing the Clear, I know the Deschutes, these fish are kind of holding. They're holding, and then they're moving maybe at night or something like that, and it makes a little bit of a difference. But no, this is great. I think the Clearwater is exciting. I mean, what are the other steelhead rivers out there other than the Clearwater, which is world famous? Are there other rivers around that area that also hold steelhead that people could fish?
The Snake and the Grand Ron.
Oh yeah,
and the salmon. Yeah, the Snake's 35 miles from me. The Ron's about a little bit up the Snake. I'd say I could be to the Ron to the mouth of the Ron in a couple hours, and then. The salmon, I've only fished it just a little bit by whitebird, but at Riggins, a lot of people fish there, but I think it's mostly gear guys. But those fly guys fishing the salmon over between Riggins and whitebird too. So, and then if you have a jet sled and you know how to get up through the rapids, you can go to the lower salmon where it joins the Snake, and that's good fishing up there.
Right. And the Grand Ron, and is that a pretty sweet river? That must be kind of similar to the Clearwater? Well,
I've only been there once, but it's very popular. Same kind of tackle, I think, at least in my view. I don't know that much about the Grand Ron, but I like when I went there, I had a good time. I caught a lot of bass.
Right. Do you catch many bass on the Clearwater?
Yeah, the Clearwater's a really great bass stream. I think they probably eat some of the steelhead smolts, but there's good smallmouth fishing in the Clearwater.
Yeah, perfect. All right, Poppy, well, give us a heads up in the as you got the Spay Clave coming, which is going to be a huge event here September 30th. We'll put a link in the show notes for people to click over so they can get some more information there. But what else do you have coming? So that's going to be September as you look out over the next kind of 6 months to a year. Anything else you want to shed light on, or are you just going to be hanging out at the shop and doing the same old good stuff?
Same old, working on rods and talking to steelhead people about fishing.
Yeah. That's right. You never get tired of that, do you? That's kind of the cool thing about the shop. You've always got somebody new or somebody old, somebody that you know coming in, and is that kind of? It seems like I grew up around a little shop, and I always felt like that was kind of the cool thing. Is you're just sitting there chatting about fishing. Is that kind of the best thing about it? Being owning a shop and being there.
Well, that's a pretty good way to spend your life, but it beats working.
That's right.
Yeah, we have a lot of people come through. One of my customers, it's an old friend, was there this week on his way to BC. Him and his wife stopped in, and I had a nice visit with them. And when people come to the shop, if I'm not down there and they want to see me, they need to tell Dale, I want to see Poppy.
Right. So we can do that. So if we want to see you, we can tell Dale to hook it up, and we can do that. What's the so at the shop, is there ever a time where it feels like work? When does it feel like work to you?
Well, when money's tight.
Oh, right. Yeah. That's a good point. Yep. That is, you still have a business, right? Even though that's still part of the thing. It's still, looking at the profit, margins and all that stuff. It's still something you got to keep going. That's a good point. Well, you've managed to keep something going pretty awesome for 20 years now, and it's good to hear that it's going to keep going on. And I'm hopeful that the Spay Clave, I'll be able to get up there this year and meet you in person. But yeah, Poppy, I appreciate. We'll send everybody out to redshedflyshop.com if they have questions, and I appreciate all your time today and all the great work you've done over the years.
Okay. It's been great talking to you.
That is a wrap. You can grab all of the show notes at wetflyswing.com. And please follow us on Instagram and share this episode out with someone you love. Please send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com, if you have any feedback or want us to put together an episode on this podcast for you. Check in anytime. I hope you enjoyed this podcast and would love to meet up with you on the water. We have new fly fishing schools going all year long and all around the country, so if you want to connect, let's do it right now. All right, time to get out of here. I hope you have a great evening. I hope you have a great morning or great afternoon wherever in the world you are, and I appreciate you for stopping by and checking out the show today. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Wet Fly Swing Fly Fishing Show. For notes and links from this episode, visit wetflyswing.com.